Time to Reminisce by John Hammonds. Tweed Heads 2486. Narrated by David Tredinnick. In World War II, the first night of the London Blitz was on Saturday night, the 7th of September 1940. The inferno in the city and London's East End gave an awe-inspiring glow to the night sky, which I saw from the third-floor window of a 4-storey house in Maida Vale in West London, which was my family home. It was just after my 8th birthday, and although I am now 92, that spectacle is still etched in my memory. The following night, that third-floor window no longer existed, because the whole house was reduced to a heap of rubble by an aerial mine which landed on the adjoining pavement. 9 members of my family in the house survived, as well as a 6-week-old kitten. The only fatality was Joey, my pet goldfish. Most of the family were either thrown clear or managed to crawl out, but one uncle, with his legs smashed, had to endure 8 hours of being buried before being dug out and taken for 6 months of surgery and rehab. He was then judged to be not only fit for army service, but to go as an infantryman to fight in the jungles of Burma. The only other member of the family to be buried alive was me. Fortunately, before the emergency services arrived on the scene, my father was able to dig me out with his bare hands. With a scalp wound and concussion, I was taken to the royally favoured St Mary's Hospital, Paddington, where I was the first patient in a newly refurbished ward for war casualties. The following day, I was joined by a man who had tried to shelter from a bomb in a shop doorway, only to be cut to shreds by the shattered shopfront. Before going to the ward, the admitting nurse gave me a tetanus injection with what I felt was a needle usually used on elephants. I was also asked what had happened to me and, according to my mother, replied, with the perception of an 8-year-old, "Hitler hit me on the head with a brick." What I discovered later was that all my childhood toys had disappeared in the heap. I think that gave me a sense of early entry into adulthood, particularly as a series of evacuations from London taught me to stand on my own feet. Stints back with my parents were in the only accommodation they could get in war-ravaged London, which was a semi-derelict house which had no floorboards on ground level, lighting by gas mantles, no electricity, no telephone, and a small radio which was powered by an accumulator. Daytime refuge from air raids was in an Anderson shelter, half sitting in the ground in the back garden, just past the wood-fired stone copper in which my mother did the weekly wash. The shelter came into its own in 1944, when in the early afternoon, a V-1 flying bomb stopped directly overhead. However, it glided slightly before wrecking the building which housed my grandparents' flat above a tobacconist shop in the adjoining street. Ignore what the record books tell you about the fastest run 400 yards. It was beaten by a 13-year-old boy who raced to the scene. Evading a warden who I'd left to attend to the badly injured shopkeeper, I clawed my way through the wreckage up the stairs, only to find that they had missed death a second time by having gone out shopping. Nighttime refuge was by taking bundles of blankets to sleep on the platform of St John's Wood Underground Station. In between holidays, I was with my school, which had been evacuated to Windsor, where I was billeted just down the road from Windsor Castle. Cricket was on the lawn between the castle and the Thames. After the war, the venue for the Royal Windsor Horse Show, whilst soccer was at Runnymede, better known as the place where King John signed the Magna Carta in 1215. Post-war, I spent 2 years serving King and then Queen and Country in the British Army, followed by 40 years in the world of insurance, where I became both a Fellow of the Chartered Insurance Institute and a Fellow of the British Insurance Brokers Association. I retired as a divisional MD of my company at age 62, when my wife and I retired to Australia, buying a house on the slopes of a, fortunately long-extinct, volcano. Now in a single-storey house on flat land in the Tweed Valley, sadly now on my own, having recently become a widower, I have a fair amount of time to reminisce. One thing, of course, I can never know is how mad Hitler would have been if he had found out that his mine was a few feet off target and all he terminated was a pet goldfish. The end.